Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial. Today I will talk about MAC addresses, what they are, how they can be used, and how you can change them in order to hide yourself. Well, what is a MAC address? A MAC address is a physical address of pretty much not your computer, but rather instead the network interface in your computer, so the network card. All of your network interfaces, they have a MAC address, be it a wireless or a wired interface. Regardless, it will have a MAC address burnt into it. And as soon as you connect to a wireless network, or as soon as you connect to any LAN network with a wired cable or something of a kind, that particular MAC address is used to identify you in combination with an IP address within that LAN network. The MAC addresses do not go further, do not go outside the LAN, do not go outside the first jump from the first router. So as soon as you go through the first router from your PC, your MAC address is no longer being shared. Anyway, let's just see how a MAC address looks like. So what command do we use if we want to list our network interfaces? Well, you use ifconfig. Ifconfig. Press enter. There we go. So I have a loopback interface, which I'm not really that interested. I just want to remove it for the time being. ifconfig eth0. And there we go. So I just wanted a listing for this particular interface, and this is your hardware address. Here it is. Do not confuse it with IPv6 address, which is here. You can see that it is a lot longer and has far more characters than a MAC address. MAC addresses usually well, not usually, but always, and I mean always, the first three sets are used to identify a manufacturer of the device. So the manufacturer is identified by the first three sets, and then the manufacturer assigns other three sets to particular devices as is decided. That you can't really utilize these last three sets because you don't really know what the manufacturer has done with them. But you can use the first three sets in order to figure out who has produced the device, and if you know which company has made the device, then you can know the possible vulnerabilities of that device. This is also one of the methods of footprinting, of figuring out a MAC address of a device, and if you have a MAC address, you can conclude with reasonable safety who the device belongs to, not who the device belongs to, but who has produced it, and in doing so you will get a better idea of what you can do with the device, how you can exploit it, and so on. Well, let's just have a look at it a bit closer. ifconfig. You can also do this. So let me just give an example of a grep command. You can use pipe grep, and you can type in this hwaddr, and there you go. This is a far better listing. So it will list ETH, link, Ethernet, and hwaddr, so you can see clearly what is written here. There are methods I can filter this through awk, awk, and then just remove this and leave only this to be printed out. But here you just have a better overview of the MAC address. This is how you can get it in a bit of a better way. Now keep in mind that this hwaddr can also be, a lot of things can be written here. That depends from one system to another, but it is irrelevant. You can always view it through using an ifconfig command, and then when you know how MAC addresses are written, when you know their formats, you can always recognize them even in the vast mass of information. I'll just go ahead and clear the screen. Since MAC addresses are used to identify you on a wireless network, you should definitely, I mean, they will identify the device, but nobody will know who is using the device. However, if somebody actually bothers to check the devices within the network, they will know who you are. They will be able to kick you off the network, and that's not a good idea. That's not what we want. We want to be anonymous, and we want to hide. One of the downsides of MAC addresses and them being used as means of identification is that if you can view the other MAC addresses on the same network in LAN, and then you can copy those MAC addresses, use them as your own, do some sort of shenanigans on the network, admins will notice that there is a problem. They will permanently ban that MAC address, and there you go. You have successfully DDoSed the person you wanted to DDoS. I have seen this used in class so many times. Basically, what people would do is figure out what the professor's laptop MAC address is, and then they would deliberately use malicious activity on the net. Just try logging into a router a couple of times. The administrators would notice, and they would permanently ban that MAC address, effectively rendering that laptop useless for that lecture, because that laptop could no longer connect to the wireless projectors where the presentations were being held. So that's a bit of a downside of it all. They eventually did get caught, and it was a pretty messy situation, but I'm just giving you an example of how these things can be used and abused as well. Not suggesting that you should do something of a kind. Use it for a benevolent purpose. Use it to make money, to advance your career and something like that. Don't use it for silly things such as these, because you literally have no gain, no benefit, nothing. You can only cause yourselves harm in such a way. Anyway, without further ado, you can use a tool called Mac Changer. So Mac Changer, press enter, and there you go. You see it is installed here, and it gives you certain, I have given it no parameters, nothing like that. So it says usage, Mac Changer option, and then device. But I don't want that. I want to use the help bar, and I'm just going to clear this Mac Changer -- help. Let's see what we have here. So you have a few options, not that many. It's a fairly simple tool, easy enough to use. You have this one to print the help, print the version and exit, print the MAC address. You can also view a MAC address with this. I didn't know that actually. Let's give it a try. Mac Changer. I didn't know it because I never bothered to check it in such a way. I always used ifconfig. Wait, is it S? Show ETH0. Huh, well, what do you know? It does actually work. So it says permanent MAC address. This is its permanent MAC address. This is its manufacturer, who owns the first three sets of the MAC address, and then you have the current MAC address, with which we can do whatever we want. So let's just go ahead and clear the screen for convenience sake, and call the help menu once more. So this is one more way to check the MAC address and exit. This you can use actually to verify things. I usually just go and use ifconfig, but this is also a very nice thing to do. Now, this is what I was talking a moment ago. It says do not change vendor bytes. So if you want to change your MAC address but still stay within the same vendor, it says don't change the vendor bytes. So those are the first 6 ones, the first 3 sets, that is. Set a random vendor MAC of the same kind. You can also use those parameters. These parameters are not used that often. Usually what you would use is either a fully random MAC address, or you would use it of a particular vendor. So you would go online, see what the particular vendor MAC addresses are, or you can print known vendors. So you got list, let me just show you, -L, and there are a lot of them. So it is only showing you the first 3 sets, and then for the other 3 you can type in whatever you feel like typing in. It doesn't even matter if you want to be, but people don't generally do this. I mean, unless there is some sort of specific thing where you want to hide in the network and pass off as a, you see, it says Balkan, this is a router, so Cisco routers. So if you want to pass on a network as a standardized device within that network and not raise any suspicions, this is a good way of doing it actually, because you can have the MAC address of a device, and if an administrator takes a look, he's going to see, oh, this is one of my routers. What do you suppose that's doing here, or something of a kind. But he won't be able to figure it out until he actually digs deeper. The important thing here is that if anybody digs deep enough, surely enough, they will find that they will figure out that you are doing something. But the idea is not to raise any flags, any suspicion, and in such a way pass off unnoticed. So once again, call the help menu, and you of course have an ability to cause a fully random MAC address, and this is what I was talking about. See here, you use the M parameter or dash dash MAC, and then you type in the MAC address that you want, and this is what people were using. They were using the MAC addresses of legit devices on the network, conduct malicious activity, and then those devices would be banned. So that's a pretty big problem that people were causing. So let me just show you what I mean by let me just show you how the changing of a MAC address looks like. We will deal with this sort of an attack a bit later on when we get into wireless hacking and breaking wireless encryptions and what you can do on a wireless LAN network. But here I just want to show you how a changed MAC address looks like. So let's just show ETH0. Okay, so we've seen this a moment ago. Now here's what happens when I use MAC changer. MAC changer dash random ETH0. Press enter, and there we go. It says permanent, current, new. So this is the new MAC address, and it says unknown. I haven't assigned it any particular vendor or anything of a kind. And if I now say show, excellent. So it says permanent and current. So this is the current one is the one that is being shown, that can be seen within the LAN network, and that is used to identify you, even though you can't actually destroy your own MAC address because it's literally burnt in. This one will be shared with everybody else, and this one will remain within your own computer. It will not go through, it will not exit your interface under any circumstances. Anyway, good practice would be to always set up a script which on boot time changes the MAC address and sets it to random every time you boot your computer. So that's not a bad idea either. So if you are doing something and you forget to change the MAC address on LAN or something like that, it can be problematic. So a good idea would be to set up an automatic MAC changing. So nothing really special there. You don't need to do any particularly difficult tasks. I will show this in the next tutorial, in the follow-up one. But until then, I hope that you have enjoyed the tutorial, and thank you for watching.